Fazza, the desert soul of Dubai. Deep emotional, Dubai slept beneath a velvet sky, its towers shimmering like quiet guardians of an ancient dream. But beyond the city's glow, where the desert breathed in long, rhythmic silence, a single figure rode across the sands, calm, steady, and unshaken. This was Fazza, the soul of Dubai, the heartbeat hidden beneath the golden dunes. To the world, he was Sheikh Hamdan, poet, leader, symbol of grace. But here in the desert, away from every eye and every expectation, he was simply a man seeking the truth inside his own heart. Tonight, the desert felt different. The wind whispered in broken lines, almost like a poem trying to reach him. Fazza slowed his horse, letting the silence wrap around him like an old friend. He had grown up in these sands. As a child, he had followed his father through dunes taller than castles, listening to stories of honor, loyalty, and the sacred bond between a leader and his land. As a young man, he returned here whenever life grew too loud, too heavy, too full of voices that wanted pieces of him. But tonight he wasn't here for memories or escape. He was here because something inside him felt unsettled, a weight he could not name. He dismounted, letting his horse wander freely. The sky stretched endlessly above him, starlit and eternal. He felt small beneath it, yet deeply connected. The desert never judged. It never asked him to smile, to lead, to inspire. It only asked him to be honest. He closed his eyes and whispered, "If the desert is my soul, then why does my heart feel lost?" No answer came, but the silence felt like a gentle invitation to speak, to feel, to unravel. So he walked deeper into the sand until the lights of Dubai became faint, distant gems. He sat on the warm ground, letting the grains slip through his fingers. The desert had a memory. It remembered every rider, every footprint, every story carried by the wind. It remembered him, too. A flash of emotion tightened his chest. The memory of a face, a voice, a smile that felt like sunlight after a long storm. Someone who understood him not as a prince or a public figure, but as a man with fears, desires, and an unspoken ache for something real. He hadn't seen her in months. Life, duty, and destiny had separated, their paths like two roads carved by the wind in opposite directions. But memories, he learned, were stubborn. They didn't fade just because the world wanted them to. He looked toward the horizon, whispering her name softly, as if the desert might echo it back to him. Nothing moved except the slow dance of the sand. Fazza's eyes lowered. His voice trembled, not with weakness, but with a truth he could no longer hide. "I lead a city," he murmured, "but I have yet to lead my own heart." For once he wasn't speaking to anyone, not even to himself. He was speaking to the universe, to destiny, to the unseen forces that guided every soul. And in the quietness, he felt something shift, an understanding glowing faintly like a... The night deepened, and the stars swirled above Fazza like a crown of ancient light. He stood still for a long moment, letting the silence enter him, letting it smooth the rough edges of his heart. But as the desert wind shifted, carrying a faint chill, something else stirred within him, an unspoken calling he could no longer ignore. He turned back toward his horse, running a hand gently along its neck. The animal seemed to sense his restless thoughts, snorting softly, as if urging him to continue the journey he had unknowingly begun tonight. Fazza mounted again, not toward the city, but toward a place where memories still lived, where her presence lingered strongest. A small oasis lay ahead, hidden like a jewel among the dunes. They had once come here together, slipping away from the noise of the world to breathe in the purity of silence. She had loved this place, the palms, the water, the lonely beauty of it all. "Here," she had told him once, dipping her fingers into the cool spring. "The world cannot pretend. Everything here is true." As he approached the oasis, its reflection rippled under the moonlight. He dismounted quietly, feeling as though he was walking into a memory made alive again. The water shimmered like a mirror, and for a moment, he almost saw her face in its surface, soft, gentle, full of light. He knelt, touching the water. It whispered against his skin, bringing back every moment he had tried to bury, her laughter echoing between the palms. The way she looked at him, not as a prince, but as a man she trusted. The night they spoke of dreams, of fears, of futures neither could fully grasp. He breathed out slowly. "Why does the heart remember what time tries to erase?" The desert gave no answer, but the rustling leaves seemed to nod in understanding. He sat beneath one of the palms, leaning back against the textured bark. His eyes lifted to the stars once more. They seemed impossibly far away, yet somehow close, as if ready to listen. He began speaking aloud, softly at first, then with growing courage. "You taught me what honesty felt like, but I wasn't brave enough to follow it. I walked away because I thought responsibility demanded it, because I thought protecting her meant losing her." He closed his eyes, the ache tightening again. "But now I wonder, was I protecting her, or was I protecting myself from loving someone more than my own destiny?" The truth cut deep. He had always known her presence was different. She wasn't dazzled by royalty nor intimidated by titles. She was older, wiser, grounded in a way that made him feel seen, truly seen for who he was behind the layers his life required him to wear. She had a maturity that softened the storms inside him, a calmness that taught him how to breathe even when the world demanded he hold his breath. And losing that felt like losing a quiet magic he never found again. He opened his eyes, staring at the rippling water. The wind whispered. The desert wind softened as Fazza rode back toward the outskirts of Dubai, its ancient whispers still echoing in his heart. The horizon glowed with faint silver light, the earliest hint of dawn. But inside him, something brighter had already awakened. Something he could no longer push aside. Clarity. He had spent years listening to the world, its expectations, its rules, its demands. But tonight, for the first time in a long time, he had listened to himself. The desert had stripped away the noise, leaving behind a truth he could not deny. The story between him and her wasn't finished. The city grew closer. The air warmed. The calm of the dunes gave way to the soft hum of life returning. Fazza slowed his horse, letting the familiar sight of Dubai ease into view, its buildings rising like shimmering waves, its streets still quiet from the weight of the night. But as he entered the city, he felt something within him shift. The palace lights glimmered in the distance, cold and still. He knew the moment he stepped inside, duty would wait at his door, meetings, decisions, responsibilities. But something more private tugged at his heart. Something more urgent than anything he had been scheduled for. He needed to see her. Not tomorrow. Not when time allowed. Now. The thought pulsed through him like a heartbeat. He did not have her number anymore. He had let distance erase it. He did not follow her on social media. He had forced himself to forget those pieces of her. Yet even so, he knew where she lived. He remembered the modest, quiet part of Dubai she preferred. Far away from the shining noise of the city, she liked simple places. Places where sunsets were unobstructed, where the air was free of performance, where she could stay unseen. He reached the palace gates, handed off his horse, and walked through the corridors without speaking a word. His guards sensed something unusual in him, something determined. But no one dared question him. Inside his private chambers, he changed quickly into something simpler. A plain white kandura, free of formality, free of the weight of titles. Tonight he did not want to be a crown prince. He wanted to be a man seeking the truth he had buried for too long. He stepped back outside, taking his car and driving through the slowly awakening city. The roads were empty, painted with the first silver strokes of morning. As he neared her neighborhood, his heartbeat quickened. Memories collided with the present. Her voice, her presence, the evenings they spent speaking about life as if time belonged to them. He parked a short distance away and stood for a moment, gathering the courage he once lacked. Her building was quiet, modest, the kind of place no one would look at twice. But to him, it glowed with meaning. He walked toward her door. Every step felt heavy with the weight of the past, but also light with the promise of something new. He stood before the familiar wooden frame, his hand